Hi, good morning, Redemption Hill and friends. It is Monday morning in the office. I hope that you're doing well. A couple thoughts that just have been going through my mind this weekend and then even this morning. Though we can't be together in our normal way, we still want to work together to try and kind of align our thoughts and hearts around what's going on. So, we in the Christian tradition have just entered into what is called Holy Week. So that is the week before Jesus' crucifixion and then resurrection, which would be this coming up Sunday, the day that we celebrate that. But in Holy Week, some of the things that have been on my mind is the first part of that. We celebrate what would have been Palm Sunday yesterday, what is called the Triumphal Entry. And that's a great thing to begin to just start marinating on a little bit by kind of entering into Jesus' story and beginning to see where he was at and feel where he was at and prepare our hearts more for Easter. So, on this Palm Sunday, on the triumphal reentry, Jesus makes his way resolutely back to Jerusalem. We hear stories of them getting a colt and him riding in and people cheering and people really excited. Yet what we need to begin to wrap our minds around is Jesus came into town on a colt knowing that he was riding into his certain death. He knew that was coming for him, and yet he still came. That may be helpful for us to begin to kind of just put ourselves there for a moment, to begin to realize what Jesus did was real for us. Begin to think about what it would be like for you, even yourself, to march into a place knowing that your impending death would be coming for you. And I think a lot really about the duality between us and him right now. We are in a certain position of fear and worry right now because of COVID-19. But some of the thoughts that kind of entered into my mind is we're in hiding from danger right now. That is our position. And yet Jesus on Holy Week in the Triumphal Entry, he willingly went towards danger. He wasn't isolating himself. He wasn't hiding behind walls. He wasn't staying where it was safe. He intentionally rode towards the danger while we hide. We are trying to protect ourselves. He was trying to lay down his protection. This is what he was doing, fully well knowing what was coming for him. We are all hoping that we stay safe and that our families are safe and that we do everything that we can, including, wear those face masks or whatever to stay safe. And yet Jesus was hoping in really the reality of the cross, that he was going to, as he says, for the joy set before him, do something to make us all safe. I think it's a beautiful thing to think about that and begin to just understand and cherish that Jesus resolutely knew what was coming. He knew death was coming for him, and yet he still went. He still cared, and that going, that if your faith is in him, that going was for you. And maybe letting your heart marinate on that this week would be helpful to you. And the other things that happened, this is Monday on Holy Week. I'm recording this on Monday, is Jesus went in and he cleansed the temple as well. Jesus was zealous to ride in to town to make a way to save us, but he was also zealous for his Father's house. He went in, cleansed the temple. His problem is that they were not praying in the house. They were not doing what they were supposed to, but they turned really the house of God into this money-changing thing that it was never supposed to be. And he says, my Father's house is supposed to be a house of prayer, which if you're a believer, it's kind of telling us that the house of God was meant to be this holy remnant that did not look like the world outside of it. That stood completely different than commerce and greed and all the things around in the world. And as we begin to think of Jesus cleansing that temple and maybe even what that means to us personally, we can understand that though we are all locked out of our church building because of social distancing right now and the coronavirus, we can still, as the church, be the church, which is the remnant personally, meaning we can still be people of prayer. Be people of worship. Be people who are sacrificial. Be people who are praising. Being people who are teaching themselves and other people about God now. So those things are very much different. We can still be the remnant that Jesus wanted to see in the Father's house, even though we can't gather in a building. And I pray that that would be encouraging to you. You can control your worship. You can control your prayer. You can control your reading of the Word. You can control your love of your neighbor and the caring for the least of these around you right now, which is what Jesus wanted to see as he rolled into town on that Holy Week. The third thing that happened so far in the timeline is the cursing of the fig tree. Jesus, imagine this, he rolls into town knowing that he's going to die, goes into the temple, sees people not praying, not worshiping, not doing anything that they're supposed to. He throws out the money changers, says, my Father's house is supposed to be different than this, and he goes out to a tree that is supposed to have fruit on it, sees all of these leaves, what is supposed to be signs of fruit, gets up to the tree, and as he examines it, there's literally no fruit there. And Jesus curses the tree, and there's a warning in there for us. Even now, as we think of what's happening, there's great danger in being like the fig tree, and being ones that have leaves that have this kind of aura of holiness around us, but yet we don't have any actual fruit growing in our lives. So I pray that maybe we would see, even on Holy Week, this kind of invitation from Jesus himself to say, even when the world is in chaos, remember what I came to do for you, and remember that you can be the remnant, you can be the church, you can be the light, you can be those who praise and worship and have fruit grow in you, because even now you are connecting to Jesus. If it is helpful for you, I would definitely recommend looking at some more of the elements at Holy Week and just begin to track what Jesus was doing as he moved forward to going towards the cross to redeem those who are lost, which would include us. I pray that kind of helps your heart today. And that you begin to just kind of think about that in appropriate ways as we get ready for Easter. And though we can't be together in our normal way, I don't for a second want you to think that you cannot or are not able to celebrate the beauty of the resurrection. Whether we can gather together in our normal way or not, the grave is still empty, and we will still celebrate that. I pray that you hear that. I pray that that's encouraging and that that's helpful to you. I love you, church. We'll talk to you again before too long.